What is up, Ridge Runner Nation? Welcome back to another episode of Ridge Runners Live. Tonight is going to be Ridge Runners Live number 84. We are joined by Sawyer Magnett and George Tolton, the two winners of the Holiday Lake 50K that took place last weekend in Appomattox, Virginia. We are super excited to have them on. If I remember correctly, Sawyer set a course record at that event as well. So we're really stoked to hear all about how the day went down there and, learn a little bit more about this race. It's one that's, it's a race that's like on the radar and then not super on the radar as well for a lot of Eastern folks, at least, living in Ohio. It's not one that we heard about. It was more like Promised Land, Hellgate, as far as Virginia races go. But anyways, my name's Cam Wrench. I'll be hosting the show tonight with John Dolovacki. John, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I just had a nice group run up here in Kent, and I'm ready to get into the show tonight. Anyone who's watching, drop your questions in the chat this evening so we can get those to George and Sawyer on the show live here. And let's start with our favorite part of the show. Sawyer, what are you drinking over there?
Just green tea.
Green tea.
Nothing special tonight. Nothing too exciting.
Nothing too exciting. Green tea sounds pretty delicious.
Yeah.
Caffeinated.
It's like 8
Oh yeah,
p.m.
that's true. Yeah, it's risky. Yeah, living life on the edge.
Good luck sleeping tonight. George, how about you?
Let's see. I got a 3-notched King of Clouds Juicy IPA.
Juicy IPA. Hoping for that summer weather to come back. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, it felt good yesterday and cold and rainy today.
Yeah, it's kind of dipping back down. Temperatures up here too. Cam, what are you drinking over there?
Yeah, so I have a Lewis and Clark Brewing Huckleberry Heffenweizen. I hope nobody's mad at me for that, but yeah, it's excellent beer. I really love this one. What about you, John?
I have a local beer here from Kent, Ohio, from Northwater Brewing Company. It's called the Scooter, and it is an Imperial Stout. It's pretty good. It got cold again, so I was like, should go back to the stouts, I guess, for a couple more days. But hoping for that spring weather here soon. A little tired of the snow, in my opinion, but excited to get going with tonight's show.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll go ahead and you both are first-time guests on our show. I don't think a lot of our audience is going to know, a ton about either of y'all. So if you would like to just intro by telling us a little bit about yourself, how you found running, how you found ultra running, and Sawyer, if you want to lead this one off.
Yeah. So growing up, I always did a lot of sports, but I always loved running, but I never really was able to do that much running. And then coming to Liberty last year, my mom just found Dr. Horton's ultra running class, and I just kind of decided that I would just try it out. And that's just kind of how I got into running, like doing ultras at least. Like I always loved running, but that's what made me get into ultra running to begin with. And I did Promised Land and then just loved it ever since then. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
And what about you, George?
I guess I started running sometime back in high school. So ran cross country track last year as high school and really enjoyed it. So I went to Virginia Tech for college, ran briefly on the team there, and then found myself on the club team, mostly focusing on like road stuff. And then I think my senior year or the year after that, I did a trail race and really enjoyed it and still didn't really do much trail stuff. And then a few years later, my buddy, Mike Jones, convinced me to come and crew him for a 100-mile ultra, the Eastern States. And I helped him out in that and paced him a little bit. And that was kind of like my first introduction into ultra running. So it's really cool to be a part of that. And then I signed up for my first one in 2017 and have kind of dabbled in them here and there since then.
Yeah, you got to love those friends who introduce you to ultra running. They're a type of people that just, suck you in. We've all got that here. What was your first race then? The first trail, first ultra trail?
I guess it was Eastern Divide 50K. I believe it was in 2017, but I disappeared from the results somehow. I don't have a DNF or anything on the results page, but I got to about mile 25, I started throwing up on myself, got really delirious. And there's like this, it's at Mountain Lake in Giles County, Virginia. And you have to go one way around the lake. And somehow I got off course and went the opposite way and ended up at the finish line on the opposite side and just kind of stopped there. I did the distance, but that was my first race.
Sounds like an exciting one for you. Sawyer,
Yeah.
how about you? What was your, so you said you got in with like Horton's class. Did you guys jump on trail right away? Did you do trail before that, or was it mostly road running, similar to George's story?
I actually did a lot of trail running back home in Arizona, but I never did like ultra running. Like I would always run, like the most I'd ran before was like 15 miles on the trail. And I used to think that was a lot. So in Horton's class, I was like, how are we going to run 34 miles? This is crazy. So my first race was Promised Land last year. So that was my first trail ultra run. But before I did trails, but never that far. Yeah.
Yeah, and for those of us who are unfamiliar, Dr. Dave Horton, just like probably on the Mount Rushmore, if that is a thing for ultra running, is a professor at Liberty University. He teaches a trail running class, which is always, I've had trouble imagining it. Sawyer, so could you actually like tell us a little bit more about this? Is this, are you in the classroom? Are you learning about like biology and like chemistry? Is Horton giving lectures about ATP? Or are you guys actually out running on trails?
So every day we would start in his classroom. We'd all kind of like sit around him, and he would just start the class out by just telling us like crazy stories, some things that you were surprised he would say, like things you would do on a trail, like when to go to the bathroom, just weird things or just weird, he has a lot of weird stories. So he would start out by giving us like 20 minutes of the lowdown on like stories he had, advice about nutrition, just what to expect. But we weren't really going into like biology or anything like that. And then he would hop on his bike and we just like kind of run around the campus. Sometimes we'd go on the trails. He'd have us go through buildings and like people give us weird looks, but it was all just part of it. It was a really good community. I really enjoyed it last year. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's really great. You mentioned going into it with, like you'd run 15 miles on trails before, and you're like, well, how are we all going to run 34 miles at the end of this? If I am remembering correctly, things that have been told to me, that class that ends in Promise Land, it's also like a very low DNF rate, right? Like almost all of the kids in the class end up finishing it.
Yeah. He said he didn't have anyone that had never done it. I was like, okay, guess we can all do this then.
Yeah, that is really great. We'll have to, see what other colleges we can get that going at. Poor about the budget cuts at OU, that we all, well, me and John heard about. But yeah, so let's go ahead and start to dive into, Holiday Lake 50K then, and let's start with just, why did you run this race? Why did you pick this one? Where does it kind of fit into, your larger goals and what you got going on? And George, if you want to take this one first.
Okay. So I guess Holiday Lake is a good like winter race. I did it once in 2018 or 2019 and really enjoyed doing it. And then I did the 25K last year. After I did the 25K last year, the race was in pretty gnarly conditions. Like it was like freezing rain. A few people were like borderline like hypothermic. And I did the 25K last year. And afterwards, I remember like waiting and then watching all the 50K guys come in, girls come in. And I was just like, I kind of felt like I should have done it, So I was like, kind of had on my radar after that last year. But it's a good one. And it's a very runnable course too. Unlike some of the other ultras, I feel like, there's a lot more hiking and really steep stuff. So it was a good one to put early on in the calendar this year.
Mm-hmm. And what about you, Sawyer? Is there another semester? Are you in like trail running 202 this year and it ends in Niskran?
No, I'm not. And honestly, I didn't sign up for this until like mid to late January. A lot of my friends were doing it, but like George said, it's like known for having like crazy weather. And a few of my friends did it last year and they just said like it was crazy to get to, it was snowing. So I was kind of like, do I really want to do this? But then all of a sudden in January, I was feeling good. And like a lot of my friends from the class were doing it. So I just decided, why not do it? See what I can do. Also, like you said, it's a pretty flat course. So I didn't know what to expect. I just wanted to see if how fast my body could go. And so I was just like, sure, I'll just sign up for it. Why not? Go into it with an open mind. And it went well. So yeah. But I wasn't planning on doing it because I'm really trying to like focus on Promised Land. But it was a good run.
Awesome. Yeah. And so I think that gives us a good segue into our next question there, which is, how does this kind of fit into the year for you? George, you mentioned it too. This is like a good winter race. It gets you out there, gets you tuned up. What other goals do you have going into this year, and how did training for this race and running this race sort of fit into that larger plan? I'm sorry, George, if you want to take this one.
Yeah. Yeah. So actually, last Sunday I signed up for Promised Land, 50K. So I'm gonna try to do that one. I did it last year and had some troubles during the race. So I'm kind of trying to redeem myself this year. So that's kind of my goal race this spring. And then I'm doing a series of these. It's called the Arnott series. It's like Roanoke Non-Ultra Trail series. So I'm doing a bunch of those this spring as well. A lot of shorter distance trail stuff. I've done a couple so far and it's been a lot of fun. So, and then later on in the year, we'll see.
All right. Awesome. And yeah, I also had my fair share of trouble at Promised Land last year, but it was not running. It was related to my Subaru's transmission.
He blocked the trail.
Yeah, if you remember the car that was broken down on the Forest Service, I think before the Sunshine Aid station, that was mine.
Oh no.
Yeah, it was really nice having everybody in the race kind of have to like go around it. I kind of, I feel like I was a part of the events that year. But I'm gonna move on from that because I also do feel the need to go back and redeem myself there. But yeah, so you're also signed up for Promised Land. Did you go into this looking to just get like a good long run or a tune up, or were you really like, well, let's open it up, let's see, like just what I have in the tank, and then it's gonna give me more confidence for Promised Land. What was that like?
Yeah, that was kind of my thoughts because that was only my third ultra. So it was kind of just more of like getting experience, getting used to the racing, getting used to the feeling before the race, and just learning more about what to expect when I'm racing as far as like nutrition and how my body feels. And I think it was a good tune up for sure, even though it's like a few months out. So yeah, just more of like a learning experience too. So, yeah.
Do you have anything else planned for the year after Promised Land, or is that kind of like the sole focus for now?
Yeah, for now, Promised Land. And then I don't really have anything for the summer. I might do like Iron Mountain when I get back to Lynchburg. So we'll see what the plan is.
Awesome. We've got some chat comments real quick. Says Tara Trex, Tara Dower says she was out there. Says Friend Holiday saw Sawyer. She said, look quick. Congratulations, y'all, for winning. Craig Diatley, congrats on your 50K this weekend at Cabin Fever. And he said, interesting getting the scoop on Horton's class, because that's actually very interesting, because I've not actually been able to talk to long form with anyone who's been in that class to see what it was like.
Yeah.
So that's pretty exciting there. So let's dive into the race. I think you both kind of mentioned like it really wasn't like I don't think either doesn't sound like you went out to win necessarily or set course records off the bat, but you kind of wanted to push yourselves and see where you got for the winter time. How did the race go from, from the starting line, through the first half, maybe kind of what some stuff were you challenging, or what areas were challenging and what was exciting and fun and whatnot? And Sawyer, if you want to go first.
Yeah, so going out, I didn't want to go too fast, but I kind of got sucked in with the front group in a way. Like a few guys were ahead of me, and there's this one guy that I was pacing off for a little bit, and it honestly felt like a really comfortable pace. But then about like the 5th mile in, I looked down at my watch and it says like 7:30 pace, and I'm like, what? Like, we're going 7:30 right now? So anyway, I just felt really good. The first half, I felt really good, and I just tried to maintain about like an 8-minute pace. Some miles are faster because there were some downhills. Honestly, my body felt really good. I was I didn't have any troubles like nutrition wise, anything. My energies felt good. So I just kind of tried to maintain like an 8-minute pace in order to like stay on course for the record, because I did see Horton at like the one of the aid stations. He said I was on pace, and I was like, okay, well, I feel good. So I guess I'll just try to keep this pace. But anyway, so the front half, it felt really good. And then I don't know, do you want me to go on to the second half or just the front half for now?
We'll do front half, and I'll have George do his front half, and then we can do the back
Okay.
half. Because the exciting
Okay.
part about the 50K ultra distance is the race recaps are significantly shorter than those 1,500-mile folks.
Oh.
So George, how about your first half?
First half, I guess. I mean, I went out with, I believe it was Nick Wers. That's how you pronounce his name. But he basically led the first half, and I just kind of sat on his shoulder, kind of ran behind him. We talked, had a good conversation. And I just stayed with him the first half, and yeah, things felt good. We were going. I started at like 7:30 pace, and I knew by like mile 10 we were doing a few sub sevens, and I think by halfway we had gotten our average down to low sevens. But yeah, I know right after halfway, I stopped to get my hand held, and I had a little baggie that I had to put stuff in. So he got like 100 yards ahead of me as I'm like fumbling, trying to get all this stuff in my pockets and everything. But that was probably the most eventful part of the first half.
Yeah. So for both of you, it seems like you kind of just really naturally moved to the front. And you've both felt really comfortable up there. Did you know going into it that that's kind of how things were going to shake out? Did you have some sort of idea of who was in the race? Were you looking at the other entrants on Ultra sign up, or did you just kind of go with the flow and you're like, well, this feels good, so I'm sticking with these folks? George, if you want to take this one.
I briefly looked at Ultra sign up, and I knew there was some people that had high percentages, but I didn't really think much into it. I just figured when the race started, I would just go up to the front of the pack and just kind of feel it out and, just see where people went. And yeah.
Yeah, and I kind of did the same. I kind of knew that like I would be towards the front, but I also wanted to get on the single lane track before any of the other women. So I kind of went out a little bit faster, but then I was expecting like a few women to be like around me, but then they just kind of weren't. So I just stayed with the front kind of pack. But then George kind of like in them kind of distance out in front of me. So I didn't really have that many people in the front half. I did a little bit, but towards the back half, I didn't really have anyone around me. So, yeah.
So how did that back half of the race go?
Oh, it went well. It went well until it was interesting because I knew exactly what I was going to come back up, since it's a loop one way and then you go the back way. So the first half, there were some downhills where I was like, oh, this is going to hurt on the way back. But the back half, it wasn't too bad. So I reached the halfway point and I saw Horton, and he said that I needed to do that exact same distance once again if I wanted to get the course record. So that was kind of a little bit daunting, but my body still felt good. So I just kind of kept trying to go with that. But then around mile 22 is when my legs just kind of like freaked out, because I've never gone that fast for that long. And so at about mile 22, I was like, this is going to be really painful and really hard, but I'm going to have to just do it. And so just kept going. I had like mental like checkpoints in my head of where the miles were, because I kind of made them out on the way, and I kept checking my watch. So like the last aid station, I knew I had like 7.5 miles to go. And that's when I was just like really like my legs were just super shot, but I was like, I'm going to have to do it. And so the last like 7 miles mentally were really tough, because there were a few uphills that just like were so hard, because we were going, that part was like super flat up until that point, because there was like a long section in the middle that was flat. And so just to hit those like hills that were straight up was just shocking on my legs. And I was just kept checking my watch, didn't think I was going to make it, but just mentally pushed through and just imagine like collapsing when I got to finish line. So that was just in my head, like the last 5 miles, like as soon as you're done with this, you can lay down. I was like, you don't have to run like ever again if you don't want to. We just have to make it to the finish line. And so it really helped also knowing that like the last half mile was like straight downhill, basically on road. That helped me mentally just be like, okay, once you make it to the road, it's downhill. Then you'll hit the finish line. So anyway, it was hard. The last 8 miles are very mentally challenging, but so worth it once I hit the finish line. So yeah.
Yeah. So let's kind of rewind back. You know, you talked about like mile 22, you know, your legs get really heavy there and you're like, okay, well, I still have to do this, right? And what is your sort of mental self-talk, or do you have, I mean, anything even outside of mental that you're doing to keep your foot on the gas and to hold your pace as much as possible? Because I don't know if this is for anybody but just me, but it's, you can almost subconsciously let off the gas when things start to get hard, you know? So how do you kind of stay locked in and in the game when things get really difficult in a race?
Yeah, so it did help. I had one headphone that I don't know, I just like to have a little bit of music. So that definitely helped. But also just like I just kept focusing on my body and just kind of like kept looking ahead. And I was checking my pace a ton, just like stay in it mentally. And I also knew I didn't have like any spare seconds to cut out. So I was just like, okay, I'll just stay focused on my pace. And then just kind of just like thinking about, I don't know, I just try to be like really like happy when I'm out there. Like, I don't know. It was still really enjoyable, even though it was painful. So I don't know. I just kind of just mentally, it was mainly like the checkpoints of like, okay, got to make it to this aid station. Okay, then I know there's a hill. So just like little mental checkpoints of like what to expect really helped. And just like reaching those and knowing that once I made it to that one, I just had less to go. So, and I also kind of like figured the amount of time I had left. So I was like, okay, 40 minutes left of this, and then I'm done. But overall, I was just like enjoying it and just kind of just staying in it mentally in a way that just keeping looking at the checkpoints, honestly. So, yeah.
Yeah, that is good to know. And we've got Tara. We've already mentioned Tara Trex, Tara Dower.
Oh, yeah.
She was the second place finisher there at this race. She wants to know, Sawyer. You know, I'm not sure if this was already shared, but what was your sort of your pace? I'm assuming kind of for that last section there.
For the last section, I think, well, I think it balanced out probably around like 750 or so for like the last section. Cause there was like some straight up hills, but then the downhills balanced out. So I think it was around like 750 for the last section. I think like overall, I didn't really negative split. Like I was pretty on point the whole time with about the same pace. So around 750.
Okay. And, you know, we love Tara. She's a previous guest of the show. We talked about her her Mountains to Sea Trail FKT after she completed it. But one thing I'm kind of curious about, Sawyer, is did you ever see Tara out there on the course? You finished like 25-ish minutes behind you. Or if you didn't, were you kind of looking over your shoulder at any points? Or were you more focused on, you know, well, I'm going to come catch these men that are ahead of me. I'm not worried about where the second place woman is at.
Yeah, at the beginning I was just curious. So a few times there were like some curves I would sneakily look over my shoulder. Didn't want anyone to see, but I did look over my shoulder like the first probably like miles like 4 to like 6 or 7. But then I kind of just realized that I would just have to like go off on my own and break away from that group that was a little bit behind me. But then at the turnaround point, I did see, oh, and it must have been her, but I just kind of wasn't really focused on that at that point. But I did pass her, I think, when I was coming back the other way. But yeah.
Yeah. And the other way around, looks like you said George for the first half. You were that second place person, like making that first person like concerned because you know you're like just hanging out right behind them for quite some time. At what point did you pass and go towards that eventual finish?
I think it was mile maybe 21, 22. Yeah, because after we got around the lake section once we did the turnaround, went back on the lake where the trail part was, we got back on like the double track fire road part. And we had been chatting the whole time. So we were just running side by side at that point. And then a few miles later, I noticed we started kind of yo-yoing a bit. and I could tell that he was starting to fade. So yeah, probably like mile 22, I finally started to gap him.
Yeah, and was that a deliberate strategy at that point when you say you kind of noticed him starting to fade, or were you just gonna sit where you were and however it shook out with that, if he could hold on to the pace, is just kind of how it shook out?
Um, I mean, the plan was kind of to just go with the flow and then make a move later. But I don't know. We had a good time running together. So I was like, let's just keep this up. It's making it easier for you, making it easier for me. But I noticed, I don't know if he was slowing down or I just was wanting to pick it up. But eventually we were just like, all right, we're going off. And then I just, at that point, I was like, I'm going to pick it up and try to make a gap. And then
Yeah.
I think like a mile or two later, I remember there's like a creek crossing and I went through the creek and I was like, all right, I'll listen to see if I hear anything. Cause I didn't want to look back and I didn't hear anything. So I was like, okay,
Yeah.
just keep going.
Awesome. Yeah. And I think you kind of hit a really good point there where, just on any run and in any part of an ultra, you do better with other folks around you, whether you're in the front of the pack or the back of the pack. And I mean, maybe that question comes a little bit from my own competitive side. If you're 100 yards ahead of me, 200 yards out of like the finish line, I am going to try to catch you, and I am going to like make a demon out of you in my mind to do it, even though we could have been best friends the whole race course long, so yeah, was there kind of, diving more into that, was there kind of any of that energy? Do you have any of that like kind of competitive side, or was it just like, okay, well, I'm making my move now, and like, this is the move, let's see what he has? Or you kind of like, what's your mental self-talk like during that, I guess, is what I'm asking.
Well, going into the race, I was kind of hoping to try and win it. I wasn't really sure who was going to be there, and I was feeling pretty confident going in, but I really had no idea. But once I made that move at like mile 22 and realized I had put a gap on it, I kind of, and mentally I was like, now you just got to keep picking it up, pretend like he's right behind you. But yeah, at that point I started feeling pretty good and just kept going with it. And I mean, at that point, once I had the lead, I'm fairly competitive, so I was like, I'm just gonna keep trying as hard as I can. But
Well, it worked out for you, obviously. So like my next question is how did both of you fuel yourselves for this? And what type of fuel you're using, and in terms of like goos, or you're using real food at aid stations or whatnot. And if Sawyer, you want to go first?
Yeah, so originally I had like 2 Cliff Bars, which I soon learned that was not what was going to be good for this race. But luckily somebody gave me a gel before. I know this makes me sound really bad, but somebody gave me a gel before. And so I tried to have my Cliff Bar at the beginning and I was like, I'm going way too fast. And this Cliff Bar is basically frozen. So it's super hard to chew. So I changed it and I grabbed out of my pack the little goo that the person gave me, which was so much better. And so I wish I had like 6 of those with me the whole time. But so when I got to the next aid station, I was like, any goos, any goos? And they're like, no goos. I was like, oh, okay. So then I had to resort to like my frozen Cliff Bar, and that was really hard to eat. So I just had a few bites of that. And then luckily at like aid station, like I think it was like mile like 6, it was probably like mile 12. They had a few like Fig Newtons. So I grabbed a few of those. Those were easy to chew and eat. But I didn't see anything else that was really like, that was mainly what I had. And then I happened to leave like a different granola bar at the start, which was also like the halfway point. So in the midst of someone else filling up my water bottle, I grabbed that, and that one wasn't too frozen. So I had that also. And then just like tailwind and water. So nothing too crazy. I also think because it was just like a faster race, I didn't need as much as I would for like Promised Land or something. But next time, if I run it, I will definitely be having a lot of goos.
Sounds
So,
like
yeah.
your nutrition plan was like the typical pantry at someone's house.
Yeah,
Cliff
yeah,
Bar, granola, Fig Newton.
yeah, yeah.
George, how about you? What was your nutrition like during the race?
So I had 3 Lara bars,
Oh,
and yeah, so
Frozen,
kind
I
of
would assume.
the first 2 weren't too bad. They're in my hand, and then I had one in the one for later on, and that one was frozen. I think I ate like 2/3 of it and just had to like throw the frozen block. Uh, but then I had a honey stinger, some type of gel at like early in the race, probably like an hour and a half in, and then I had like a double espresso cliff shot at like mile 20, 22 to try to give me some energy for the end.
I love that
And
caffeine.
just sipped on water a little bit throughout, and then I had some like Gatorade mix I tried to put into my handheld at the end, but I ended up just like pouring it all over myself. But that was about it.
Sounds like well-rounded diets here. I enjoy it. But obviously it worked. So
yeah.
excited for that. Quick little side piece here. Again, those who are in the chat room, drop your questions so we can get them to these awesome guests live here on the show. And if you like what we're doing here, go ahead and give us like like a little like maybe, or share with a friend or something like that. Definitely helps us out. Ken, what we got up next?
Yeah, so this is a little bit different in a 50K, and especially as fast of races as both of y'all ran. But what was kind of your like lowest moment, or did you ever have like a mental blocker, or just a moment where you're like, I don't quite want to do this? I think we already got into yours a little bit, Sawyer, around that like mile 22 mark. But George, did you ever have a moment like that out there on the course?
Um, I was a little concerned at the halfway point when I was fumbling with all my stuff. Um, I think I got more frustrated than anything, but because I had to catch up, like make up like the 100-yard gap, and um, I could feel some fatigue in my legs going up those hills, up and down the little hills around the lake. But other than that, not really. I expected a low point later on in the race, but didn't really have one.
Well, I need to be doing whatever it is that you're doing for my upcoming 50K. But yeah, that's really good to know. And you think it was really just kind of just frustration about like not being able to do what you needed to do at that aid station there? It wasn't just even, it
It,
wasn't.
it,
Yeah,
it wasn't that bad.
yeah. That's
I
great.
expected to get
Yeah.
a low point late in the race, and it never
Hmm.
happened, which was awesome. But I usually hit a low point,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, that's great. We'll go ahead and we'll transition then. What was kind of your best moment out there? What was the highest sort of like peak of it? Not literally, of course. Or what like brought you the most joy when you were out there on the race course? And Sawyer, if you want to take this one.
Yeah, there was like a certain section where I passed a lot of the 25K runners, and that was about like halfway of the first loop. And I just seeing all of them, every single one of them said, "Good job, great job," or they'd say like "first woman." And so that was just really encouraging. It's an amazing community anyway with ultra running, but it was just really cool being out there and just having encouragement from other runners while I was running. So that made it really special. I think that was a really cool part about this race. Yeah.
So for the aid stations, it's another fun question I always like to ask. But you two might be a little fast because you're blowing through them way quicker than I like to stop and like say hi and like get a bunch of stuff and slower
Yeah.
pace kind of stuff. But what was your maybe favorite aid station going through the race?
I actually, one of my friends was working at the aid station, the first aid station at mile 8. So that was really special, like being able to see one of my friends. And then I also passed him on the way back, and he said he gave me some encouragement in a way that he didn't even realize, because I don't think he realized I was like on pace for the course record, but he kind of said in a way of kind of like messing with me, "You got to speed up." And I was like, "Yeah, I actually do." But so that was nice. He kind of just was giving me some encouragement. And it was nice seeing a familiar face. But everyone else was super nice at the aid stations too, and super helpful. So they were all great.
George, how about you? What was your best moment and best aid station?
best aid station. I only like stopped briefly at the last two just to grab like a sip of Coke or ginger ale. So I guess whoever handed me that Coke at that second to last one, that was a pretty good moment.
Love it.
Um,
So then post race, then I guess we can kind of maybe jump into obviously Sawyer got the course record, and then George got first place. How's your guys' recovery have gone so far? Are you all back out there running 6-minute miles on trail or road and trails and stuff like that, or are you guys relaxing a little bit after this before you jump back into your training block for Promised Land? And Sawyer, if you want to go first.
Yeah, I'll go first. So the next day, Sunday, I never had that. My legs were done. Everything hurt. Like it was a different pain than like Promised Land. My legs were sore. But then Monday, I went out and ran with some of my other friends who did the run. So that was really nice. That helped loosen up. And then I think I got a little too ambitious on Tuesday and did like 7 miles with like some climbing. We were going like 8-minute pace, but so now I'm trying to like ease back into it. So I'm not running now. So I'm gonna give myself until like Monday because my foot is just a little sore, like a little. I think it's just because of my stride. I just put a lot of pressure on my right foot. So I'm just trying to ease back into it, even though it's like killing me. So anyway, next week I'll get back out there for sure. But yeah.
Awesome. George, how about you?
let's see. I did like 3 miles the next day, pretty easy. Took Monday off. Let's see. I ran the next couple days and actually did 12 miles this evening with my buddy McLean. And I'll probably do an easy run tomorrow and then maybe a couple days off. I'm going to Utah for a week to go snowboarding, so I need to rest up for that.
Yeah, definitely agree on that. And then, this is kind of, it's I'm sorry, I'm trying to intro the question too much. But basically it's what is one piece of advice you would give, your younger ultra running self, and maybe for Sawyer, now that you've done 3 ultras, what is that kind of one piece of advice that you would give yourself, before Promised Land, now that you've done a couple of these and it's not so unknown? So if you want to start off with this one.
Probably, I don't know. I feel like maybe for Promised Land, I could have had a little bit stronger of a goal, maybe. Like, I feel like I should have gone out a little bit faster. So maybe just, I don't know, testing my limits a little bit more and like, I don't know, but I also didn't know what to expect. Or probably just like giving myself more, I don't know, just like holding myself to a higher standard of just like, you can do this, like you can go out with the fast people, but that and also getting better at my nutrition, I feel like. But now I feel like I kind of got that. So, yeah. So I'd just say like holding myself to a higher standard of just like, no, you can go out with the fast people, but yeah, anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, I know personally for me a little bit of that like mindset shift. From not like, oh, like you need to go this slow, but not even as a like, and we're obviously very different places in these races too.
I was about to say you're not going to go out with the fast people at the beginning, right?
maybe a couple of the fast women, depends on the race. But yeah, like where it's a little bit less about like, oh, like I need to be cautious and I need to not run this climb or whatever. It's like, well, think of it more as like not selling yourself short. And like, well, no, you can actually do this. Like you can do a little bit more. So yeah, I think that's a really important like mindset shift, frankly. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like to put a lot of pressure on myself, but I feel like that would help too, just to be like, no, you can do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then what about you, George? Obviously you've got, I think, like 14 or 15 results there on ultra sign up. What is, going back to your first ultra or to just your younger self generally, what is that one piece of advice that you'd give him?
Yeah, probably focus more on nutrition. I have a weak stomach sometimes when it comes to these races. So what I put in my stomach is what I eat is very important. I've realized, and yeah, I don't know. I think training consistently too. I kind of will go on like these peaks and valleys with training and always think I can do well, even if I haven't trained very hard. And I've got myself into some pretty low places in races because I've tried to run faster than I probably could at that point in time. And I found myself, throwing up on the side of the trail, wanting to drop out. And I've always finished, but I've learned a lot since then, hopefully.
But I think it would be better still to find those limits versus finishing and being like I could have pushed harder. I think that would be worse sometimes.
That's true. I found a couple of those limits last year, so
And
I'm still learning.
We had a Michael DeBova on, and I think one of his couple comments that he has that I really like is he's like, I have 2 training types weeks basically, and one he's like, it's like I hit everything on my schedule and I do what I need to, and the next week I do 0 miles and I don't do anything and I feel like a piece of shit. So I just love
I think
that.
that was Chris Roberts.
Or was it Chris Roberts? I thought it was DeBova who said it.
That's
But it could have been
two very different vibes from another couple of great Virginia ultra runners,
but both
yeah.
very relaxed individuals there. But so it's funny because like that mentioned that comment first, like good weeks and bad weeks, and it's like, so it's like it happens to everybody, which is what's nice to hear. Being someone who runs in the mid pack or near the tail end of the group. So, who we got next, Cam?
Yeah. So essentially just, we've talked a little bit about what's next already, and it's going to be Promised Land 50K for both of y'all. But, beyond that, George, you've got this race series that you're doing in, Sawyer. It kind of seems like everything's open for you. But, where are you guys headed? Like sort of what are your kind of like your grandest goals that you've got for this year? And George, if you want to take this one to start.
I'm not entirely sure at this point. I've been looking at a few races. One sign up comes pretty soon, and that's Pikes Peak Marathon. I'd really like to try that. I don't know how the altitude would affect me, but I think that's in September. So I'm really thinking about doing that. And probably one other big race this fall. Just haven't nailed it down yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say, what about you, Sawyer?
Okay. Yeah. For me, I want to do better than I did last year, Promised Land. I want to do that. And then hopefully in the summer, maybe when I'm back home in Arizona, go out and do a race somewhere out west, just see how it is. Because I've never really done an ultra out there, but also see how it is. I don't know how it'll work out in the summer. And then I do want to do Mount Mascus again because I got lost last year and I accidentally ran an extra 2.5 miles. So I want to do that again, where I actually know the course this time and redeem myself a little bit. So I want to do that and maybe also Iron Mountain out here. So yeah. Don't think I'm going to do Hellgate, even though I keep getting told to do that. I don't know about that one yet. So we'll see.
Should do it. Just sign up for it.
Sounds a little crazy.
I'm hoping that they do another wonderful song this year. I enjoyed the music that they have for that on Facebook that they post about it. Who was that the first year, Cam? Was it John Anderson? I think it was them, right? I can't remember.
About Hellgate?
Yeah.
Or
They have like the 12 Days of Hellgate or whatever it was.
I do not remember.
If you've not seen it, you gotta go find it. We'll probably give you a link after the show. But yeah, it's like I think 12 Days of Christmas, but Hellgate style or something. So it's just one of those amazing kind of things. I think we can jump into our quick questions here. Cam, what do you think?
I've got a couple more to do before that. Sawyer, you mentioned you're from Prescott, Arizona, I believe. It's another one. I want to say it Prescott, but I can only hear Michael Versteeg. Yeah, I can only hear Michael Versteeg's voice in my head from all the documentaries I've seen. But you guys are both pretty well enmeshed now in kind of like the Virginia ultra running community. So, tell us, what are some of your favorite things about the community there? I know, George, you've done a ton of the races. You've done Hellgate, in fact. So maybe you could also be the one to tell Sawyer to hop in this winter.
Oh yeah.
It's up to you. I mean, it's definitely an experience.
Yeah. I bet.
I was glad I did it. It was fun in a weird way.
But was it fun just after or during it also?
It was fun during. I mean, I've never started a race at midnight. And yeah, I mean, it's definitely, yeah, it was definitely a challenge too. I don't know if you've done 100K before, but yeah, it was new for me last year, and it was fun in a weird way. Pretty painful actually, but you should do it.
Maybe, okay.
Painful. Do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds like an ultra runner.
Exactly. But yeah, so kind of, what are some of your favorite things about the ultra running community there in Virginia? George?
I guess I always see familiar faces, which is always good at all the races. And everyone's so positive, upbeat, kind of down to earth. Everyone's encouraging. I don't know. I guess it's just always a good vibe whenever you go to one of these races. Just everyone's so upbeat, and you just kind of feel at home. And we're all there like to do the same thing, to go run out in the woods for hours. And yeah, I don't know. It's kind of a neat little community, I guess.
And Sawyer, what about you?
I like how everyone's just super laid back. Like the night before Holiday Lake, everybody's just chill, eating like a bunch of pizza right before the night before. And I don't know. I just think everyone doesn't take themselves too seriously, even though you could be like an amazing ultra runner. They're all just hanging out around like the fire or whatever. And everyone is super encouraging. Like that's really nice when you're out running and everyone you pass. Like I would pass a few guys like at Holiday Lake and they're like, good job, like amazing. Like, and they meant it. Like they weren't like mad I was passing them. They're all just out there. Everybody encourages everyone and just wants everyone else to do well. And so yeah, and I just like the laid back vibe for sure, even though it's just people are really amazing. So, yeah, everyone's super nice.
Yeah, I love that about the ultra running community.
Yeah, and then before we go into our quick questions, we do have one chat question for George, and this is from McLean Grow. Wants to know, is crying fun, George? So I mean, I have my own opinions on this, but you want to let us know?
Is crying fun? I would say not. I wouldn't define it as fun, but I would say I learned a lot about myself during that moment. Because I'm sure he's talking about Hellgate at Boblet's Gap.
You want to fill us in a little bit on this moment? Because I've definitely cried at a race before. This is a space that you can talk about that.
This was definitely a low moment. So the first 35 to 40 miles went really well. I was in top 10 at some point, and then I got to an aid station. I left my jacket. We started running around this mountain. Got really windy, got really cold. I bonked, didn't bring any food with me in this section, and started cramping really bad. And yeah, I ended up at Boblet's Gap, just a complete wreck. Got a little bit of food in me, a jacket, and there might have been one tear. I don't know. McLean's completely talking about. He wasn't there, so. But but yeah, I got my act together and I walked all the way to the finish. So it was a good time.
Oh man, that's incredible. As someone who is also walked all the way to the finish. I hope that I think you finished like 19th at Hellgate or something. I wish I could finish that high up. I got to walk it out.
There's some power shuffling too. You know, it felt like walking, but my mind wanted to run, but my body was like, no.
All right. So we're going to go ahead and dive into our quick questions that we always like to end the show here with. And our very first thing is going to be, what is one thing you can't leave an aid station without? And Sawyer, if you want to start with this one.
Yes, it has to be my chewy granola bars. I still need to expand on, I'm just too nervous to try other stuff, but for Promised Land, I literally ate like 6 of those. So any aid station, I was grabbing those like chewy granola bars, the peanut butter one. So that was my go-to. And then Tailwind also, for sure.
Nice, George. How about you?
I'm gonna say Laura bars. I've had pretty good results the last 2 times on my stomach, at least. So Laura bars.
Nice. Next question we got here is weirdest hallucination mid-race, or if you don't have any hallucinations, maybe the strangest thing you've seen somebody else eat at an aid station. And George, if you want to go first.
So after my episode at Boblett's Gap at Hellgate, probably 5 miles later, I remember walking, shuffling through all these leaves, and I kept seeing spectators in the distance. Like, oh, wow, these people came all the way out in the woods to see us. And it turns out they were just stumps. I kept thinking they were spectators. And then when I got closer, I was like, oh, that's just a stump. Never mind. But that was kind of the weirdest thing I've ever seen out there.
I love that your hallucination is seeing people cheer you on, basically. Spectator. I love that. That's great. It's a good way to motivate yourself, right?
Yeah.
If you just envision the whole thing is just a bunch of people cheering for you to go, then that's a perfect hallucination to get you moving, I guess. Sorry, how about you?
I haven't had any weird hallucinations, and I also honestly I don't spend too much time at the aid stations, but probably like the weirdest thing I could imagine eating was like someone had like a full-on like huge grilled cheese during Promised Land while we were going uphill. So I don't know. I just thought that was kind of crazy. I couldn't have done that, but that and probably just also like Mountain Dew. I don't know. I haven't tried that, but someone one time was like chugging like 3 cups of the Mountain Dew. So I don't know. That was weird for me too, but nothing crazy.
The grilled cheese sounds like something I could do. If I was hungry, I would walk up a hill and definitely eat a whole entire grilled cheese, not a problem, or cheese quesadilla or something like that. Next question we got here says, what ball sport do you think you could beat most ultra runners in? And Sawyer, if you want to go first.
Probably soccer. It better be soccer because that's what I did my whole life. I did that for like 14 years. But also, I don't know. I feel like maybe basketball too, even though my family would probably say I can't shoot, but I feel like I could still like beat them in that too. So probably soccer and basketball.
Nice. You'll have to join if you got 14 years experience, you need to join the Cincinnati Runners Group's team as they try to beat Wesley Harton, which is our other host, in soccer, because Wesley always says he can beat everybody in soccer. So we'll have to put you on their team so you can make sure you definitely stomp them. George, how about you? What ball sport do you think you could beat most ultra runners in?
Maybe golf. I don't know if there's many ultra runners that golf, but I like to play golf, so maybe.
Maybe golf. Nice.
I think Speed Goat, Carl Meltzer, I think he plays a lot of golf, so I don't know. He's a pretty fast runner, so he's probably pretty good at golf too.
Yeah. Isn't there like that golf too where you like run between holes instead of
Speed
walking?
golf.
Yeah.
What? I've not heard of this.
You like take a couple. Yeah.
So you like hit the ball and just like basically run as fast as you can to the ball and keep going?
Yeah, and I think it takes into account like your time to complete all the holes and like how many strokes. I've never done it, but I've heard about it, and I think it could be fun.
Yeah, that's actually kind of sounds kind of fun. I want to try that sometime. Next question we got here says, if ultra running had walk-up songs like baseball, what would yours be? Sawyer, if you want to go first.
I would have to say Eye of the Tiger because when I was younger, I was obsessed with Rocky. Literally, I was obsessed with it for like 5 years, I think. And I had like a punching bag, like I was into it. And I think it was mainly like the message, like that taught me a lot about like working hard and just like digging in. So that just connects me back to like that mentality of just pushing beyond what I think I can do. So I'd have to say Eye of the Tiger.
It's a good addition to our Spotify playlist. All these songs that we ask everyone for all these shows end up on a Spotify playlist, and it is the most eclectic set of songs ever. George, how about you?
Yeah.
What would your walk-up song be?
Um, Probably "Who Let the Dogs Out" by the Baha Men.
Cam's gonna die. That's
I
great. I love this.
I used to always, when I was in college, whenever they had a jukebox, I don't know what started it, but whenever I saw a jukebox, I used to always put that song on. And then whenever I went to that place again or another place, my friends were there and they heard that song. They knew I chose it. I don't know why, but
That's fun. I love that. That's great. Um, yeah, like I said, just perfect additions to that playlist. Makes it more eclectic. So if you ever get bored on a long run and you need some sort of humor in your life, you definitely want to put that on shuffle. You end up with some weird
It's
and exciting
I've
stuff.
done it. It's strange.
what's it called?
So it's Ridge Runners spelled the way we spell it with only one N, and then just Tunes of the Nation.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's just every time we've asked that question, we'll throw those songs on there, and then we've also got me, John, and Wesley all added a song of our own. If you can guess which one is John's, I will give you. Well, I'm unemployed right now, so nothing. But it's a significant amount of money because I never would have guessed this from John. But yeah,
It's a-
Ridge Runners Tunes of the Nation on Spotify.
It's a fun
Okay.
song.
I'll check it out.
Yeah, it's definitely worth the listen and subscribe to it on Spotify or add it to your playlist list. Next, now we got one of our favorite questions of the whole thing. It says, if you could run with one person in history of the world, even if they like aren't a runner, and assuming they can keep your pace and you guys can have a conversational pace, who would it be and where would you run with that person? And George, if you want to go first.
I'd say Vladimir Putin. I'd want him on the horse, shirtless, just like in that picture, and just ask him what he's doing right now. And hopefully we could put some peace in this world. I don't know.
That's our first topical answer,
Yeah.
which I'm happy about. Honestly,
Yeah.
So I also want to point out that there is this is George saying that he can keep up with Vladimir Putin on a horse. So
It could be a miniature horse. I don't know.
That would be even
I just-
better.
I
would
saw the
love to see
picture
that.
on. I saw the picture on Twitter earlier, and I couldn't stop thinking about it. So
Yeah. I would also agree. That's a good answer right now for the current times. I would like to know what he's thinking as well. Sawyer, how about you? Who would you want to run with and where?
I'd want to run with Emma Coburn because I've just always followed her on Instagram and she just seems like an amazing person. And also, she's accomplished so much as a steeplechaser. And everywhere she runs looks amazing, like in Colorado. So I'd probably have to go to Crested Butte with her, but only when it's warm because sometimes she's running on the track when there's like snow all over and like a sports bra. I don't know how she does it. So on a nice trail in the summer in Crested Butte and just talk to her about her accomplishments and just what she's learned and everything like that.
Love that. I see we're also missing a question this evening, but I wanted to ask this one because it's also one of my next favorites. Actually, I should make Cam ask it. This is Cam's question, and it's good because I love the mental thought process behind this question.
it's been. I was trying to retire it, but
I love it.
You love it. I've heard enough answers to it, but essentially this is a hypothetical. But you're in a situation where you've got to either fight a chicken on the first day of the year, one chicken, and then two chickens on the second day of the year, three on the third, and then just exponential growth of chickens right? Matching the days of the year to the end of the year. So the last day of the year is 365 chickens. And this is just you and your bare hands and all of these chickens. Or you can choose, you have a year to train to fight a mountain lion. And you get to have a sword and armor for this fight. And you've got a whole year to prepare for it. So, yeah. Which of those do you choose and why? I think George has some thoughts.
Yeah, you go, George.
I would definitely do the mountain lion because like you have one chance to do it and you're well trained. So you just go for it, get it done with. With the chickens, what if you wake up sick one day? What if one day the chickens are super feisty and just attack? I don't know, 300 chickens all at once. I don't think I could handle that. So
Yeah, I
Feisty
occasionally house sit on like a little hobby farm out here, and there's 10 chickens, and I'm very concerned for everybody who says chickens, because 10 chickens sometimes feels like a lot.
especially if they're roosters, they've got the talon, brutal.
Absolutely. So after throwing all that out there, Sawyer, what do you think?
Yeah, I was going to say the mountain lion also because you would have the year to train, and that's a lot of chickens anyway. And I also like having I don't know, I'd like the end goal of knowing that whole year, okay, I have this long to prepare to fight it. And you'd also have the armor. So I feel like I could handle it. We have mountain lions in Arizona, so I could maybe handle it.
If not, it doesn't matter. That's that.
Throw rocks like in that video.
Oh yeah, there's that one was it the one from Utah? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that one was I think a few months before I visited Wesley when he was out there in Logan, and I was like, ugh, I don't want to see mountain lion when I'm out jogging. It'd be terrifying. And the last thing here we got real quick before we close, any sponsors or social media that you want to plug, if you want to do that. George, do you have anything?
No sponsors unless anyone wants to sponsor me. I guess Instagram at Tolton George. And then I guess if you want to follow my training, I do Strava posts. I put my runs on there. So if anyone's curious, I don't know. That's about it.
Cool. Sorry, do you have any sponsors or any social media you want to plug?
Yeah, actually, after Holiday Lake, just a new sponsor and just a really cool group that just kind of reached out to me called the Trails Collective. So you can find them on Instagram and also in my bio at Sawyer Magnett on Instagram with 2 T's for Magnet. So yeah.
Nice. All right, I think that's all we have tonight. I don't see any other questions in the chat that we missed. Thanks both of you to joining us this evening. It was great to talk to you, get to know a bit about you, your running history. Congratulations on your both amazing performances here at Holiday Lake. And I can't wait to see what happens at Promised Land. Anything else, Cam? He forgot where his mute button is.
Nope, absolutely. That's rookie mistake, but yeah, nothing else. We'll be back for another episode of Ridge Runners Live to talk about Cabin Fever 50K. Next week, I believe that's on Tuesday, but don't hold me to that because I haven't checked my email in a while. So thanks everybody for joining us tonight, and we will see you on the next one.
Sweet. Bye,
Thank
everybody.
you.